Ben was a lonely man. He lived on a quiet alien planet called Tressa. Far from Earth, many humans had moved here after the war. But Ben had come alone. He had lost his wife and daughter 5 years ago in an accident. Since then, his heart had been empty every evening. He walked to a small hill near the forest. From there, he watched the 2 suns set, one red and one white. It reminded him of the sunsets he used to share with his family. He never missed a day, rain or shine. It was the only place where he still felt close to them. One day, while sitting on his usual rock, Ben saw something strange. A small figure was moving near the edge of the forest. It was an alien girl, maybe 10 or 11 years old. With light purple skin and dark silver hair, she was lifting bricks, one by one, and placing them carefully on the ground. She had no tools, no machines, just her hands and a quiet focus. She was building something, but what? And why here? Ben watched in silence, too surprised to speak. The girl didn't notice him, or maybe she didn't care. She worked slowly, gently, like every brick mattered. Then, after a few hours, she stood up, bowed to the bricks, and walked into the trees. The next day, Ben came again. Earlier this time, he waited. And just like before, the alien girl appeared. She brought more bricks from somewhere and placed them carefully again. This time, Ben took a step closer, still hidden behind a tree. He didn't want to scare her. She looked small, maybe even a little weak. But there was something strong in her eyes. Something old, something deep. He stayed until sunset. Watching her work without rest, again, she bowed to the bricks and disappeared into the forest. Ben started coming every day, not just for the sunset anymore. He came to see her. He never spoke, just watched. He noticed that the shape she was building was not random. It was a house, but not like human houses. It had smooth curves, like a shell, and glowing lines on the sides. It looked ancient, like something from a forgotten time. Sometimes she would stop and place her hand on a brick, and it would glow faintly. Ben couldn't understand it. But he felt like she was bringing something to life. One evening, he finally gathered the courage to step out from behind the tree. He walked slowly toward the half-built house. The girl turned and looked at him. Her eyes wide but calm. Ben raised a hand and smiled. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said softly. She stared for a moment, then looked down and placed another brick. Ben stood silently for a while, then turned and walked back. That night, he couldn't sleep. His dreams were filled with images of bricks, glowing softly in the dark, and the girl's eyes watching him, as if she knew his pain. The next day, Ben returned, but the girl was gone. The bricks were still there, arranged carefully as before, but now, something new sat in the middle, a small, glowing stone. Shaped like a teardrop, Ben picked it up gently. As soon as he touched it, warmth spread through his hand. He heard no voice, but felt something inside. A feeling soft and sad, waiting, hoping, remembering. He closed his eyes. And for a moment, he saw something. A house filled with light. A table with food, a child's laughter. He opened his eyes quickly, his heart pounding. He looked around. But the forest was quiet. He called out, "Hey, are you there?" No answer, just the wind in the trees. Ben held the stone close to his chest and walked back home for the first time in years. He felt something stir inside him, not sorrow, not pain, but the small spark of connection. He didn't know who the alien girl was, or what she was building, but he knew one thing. She wasn't just building a house, she was building something else. Something important, and somehow, he was now a part of it. He would return tomorrow. He had to. The next morning, Ben returned to the hill before the suns had even risen. He held the glowing stone tightly in his hand. All night, he had felt its warmth, as if it was alive, Sometimes it pulsed gently. Like a heartbeat, Ben didn't understand it. But he knew it was connected to the alien girl. He sat near the unfinished house and waited. The bricks were still there, untouched, quiet. But full of strange energy. Time passed. And the world around him began to wake. Birds flew by. Small animals moved through the grass, but there was no sign of the girl. Just when Ben started to think she wouldn't come, he heard soft footsteps. He looked up, and there she was. Carrying 3 bricks in her arms, her silver hair shining in the morning light. She looked at him, then at the stone in his hand. Her eyes narrowed, not angry, just cautious. Ben stood up slowly and said, "I found this here yesterday." He held it out. But she didn't take it. Instead, she walked past him and gently placed the bricks on the ground. She began building again, quietly, as if he wasn't there. Ben sat down and watched for a long time. Neither of them spoke. Then, as she placed another brick, she asked in a low voice, "Why do you come here?" Ben was surprised, but he answered to watch the sunset. At first, he looked at the half-built house, then at her. "Now I come to see what you're building." She didn't reply. "Just kept working." After a moment, she whispered, "No one sees." Ben leaned forward. "I see." She looked at him again. Her eyes softer now. "You saw me." Ben nodded. "Yes." The girl paused, her fingers tracing a line on the brick. "I built a home." Then she stood, turned, and walked back toward the trees. Ben called out, "Wait," but she was already gone. He stayed there a while longer, holding the stone. Then he placed it on one of the bricks and left, that night. He couldn't get her words out of his head. "I built a home." They echoed in his mind over and over. But for who? For herself? For others? Or maybe for him? The next day, Ben went to the local record center in town. He spoke to a woman behind a dusty counter. "I'm looking for an alien girl," he said. "Young, purple skin, silver hair, small." The woman raised an eyebrow. "Lots of species here fit that." Ben shook his head. "She's building something." Near the forest hill, the woman gave him a strange look. Then leaned closer. "There's talk," she whispered. "About an old spirit who builds a house that never finishes." Ben frowned. "She's not a spirit. She's real." The woman shrugged. "Then be careful." Ben left feeling confused but more curious than ever. Later that evening, Ben returned to the hill. The girl wasn't there yet, but something else was. Another stone. Sitting on the same brick where he had placed the first one. But this one was blue, shaped like a leaf when he touched it. The world around him blurred. He was no longer on the hill. He was inside a home, not his home, but a warm, strange one. A small table, alien furniture, soft lights, and laughter. The alien girl, older now, smiling, handing him a cup. He felt happiness. Peace like it was a memory, but it wasn't his. Or was it? He blinked, and the vision ended. He sat back, heart racing. The stones were showing him something. Something real, or maybe something possible. He looked around, wondering if the girl had seen the same thing. Then he heard a voice, soft but clear, behind him. "You saw it." Ben turned, and there she was. Standing quietly, he nodded. "I saw a home." She stepped closer. "A memory, not mine. Not yours." Ben looked at the stone, then whose? She pointed to the bricks. "The house remembers." Ben was silent. He couldn't understand it fully. But he knew one thing. This wasn't just a building. It was alive, in some way, made of memory, emotion, time. The girl sat beside the wall of bricks. Her hands glowing slightly as she touched them. She whispered words in her language. Soft and sad. Ben asked, "Why are you doing this?" She looked at him and said, "So we are not forgotten." Then she stood, and like before, disappeared into the trees. Ben remained there until dark. He touched the stone again, hoping for another vision. But it stayed still, cool in his hand, still. His heart was full. He had questions, yes. But more than that, he had a feeling. He was part of something now, something bigger than himself. Something ancient, something broken. Trying to be whole again, and it all began with a brick, and a stranger with a stone. Ben couldn't stay away every morning now. He woke with a need to return to the hill. The unfinished alien house had become part of his life, and the girl quiet, strange, but full of purpose, had captured his heart in a way he couldn't explain. He thought about her while drinking his coffee, while walking through town. Even in his dreams, she didn't speak much. But when she did, her words stayed in his mind for hours. "So we are not forgotten," she had said. That sentence echoed inside him like a soft drum. He needed answers. He wanted to know who she was, where she came from, and why she was building a home in silence. Alone. So he returned to the city. But this time, not to ask at the counter. This time, he wanted real records. Old files, hidden data. He visited the archive tower. A tall building made of silver glass, run by machines and a few humans who didn't ask too many questions. There, deep in the database, he searched by description, species, and settlement records, but nothing matched her. Not one entry, no birth file, no ID, no history of any alien girl with silver hair and violet skin living near the forest hill. It made no sense. Every being on Tressa had to register, especially after the last migration wave. Still, she wasn't listed. He even searched old myths and reports of ghost sightings, just to be sure. And there it was, buried in a forgotten folder labeled Folklore plus Unverified Sightings, an old report from 30 years ago, written by a human settler. It said, "A strange child seen building something near the ruins, no tools, no voice. Just bricks and glowing stones vanishes when approached." Ben's blood went cold. Was it the same girl? Or someone like her? How could she be there for so long and still look like a child? That night, Ben dreamed again. He was walking through a home he had never lived in. The rooms were shaped like curves, glowing gently. There was a table with drawings. Small chairs, soft music playing in the air. He saw the alien girl standing by the window. But when he tried to speak, she turned to dust. He woke with tears in his eyes, holding one of the stones close to his chest. The next day, the girl was already there when he arrived. She was placing bricks in a new pattern, almost like a doorway. Ben walked up slowly. "You've been building for a long time, haven't you?" She nodded without looking at him. Ben sat nearby. "I checked the records. There's no name, no home, nothing." She stopped moving, but didn't speak. "You're not registered." "You don't exist," he added. Then she finally said, "I did." Once Ben leaned forward. "What happened?" She touched the glowing line of the wall. "My people fell, their memories lost. Only I remained." Ben listened quietly. She continued. "They tried to erase us, not just from planets, but from time." Her voice trembled. "But if one remembers, then we are not truly gone." Ben looked at the house half-built, silent yet full of feeling. Each brick was like a frozen heartbeat. "What do the stones do?" he asked. She looked at him, her eyes older than they should have been. "They carry pieces of memory." "Yours?" he asked. She shook her head. "No." "Everyone's." Ben picked up a small stone near his foot. It was shaped like a star. He held it tightly, and like before, he saw a flash. A scene of laughter, voices, a sunset from a different world. Then it was gone. He breathed out slowly. "They're beautiful." The girl smiled for the first time, just a little. "They are pieces of the soul." But then she stood quickly, as if she had sensed something. Her eyes scanned the forest. "Someone watches," she whispered. Ben turned, but saw nothing. "Just trees, wind, and shadows. Do people want to stop you?" he asked. She looked at him and said, "Yes." Then she pointed to the stones. "If too many remember, the past comes back. And some fear the past." Ben stood beside her now. No longer just a watcher, he placed his hand on the wall and said, "Then I will help." She looked up at him, her face calm but unsure. "Why?" Ben answered simply, "Because no one should be forgotten." The sun began to set, casting a soft glow over the strange, half-built house. Ben and the girl stood in silence, side by side, and in that moment, something inside the house shifted. The walls hummed, the bricks pulsed, and a gentle breeze carried a sound that felt like a forgotten lullaby. Ben felt the weight of his old sorrow fade just a little. He didn't know where this was going, but he knew he couldn't walk away. The girl may not exist in the records, but she existed now, in him, and he would never forget. Ben no longer watched from a distance. He worked beside her now. Every day, he met the alien girl at the hill, where the strange house grew one brick at a time. They didn't speak much, but they didn't need to. Each brick they placed told a story, and Ben could feel it. The house was not made of just stone, but of memories. It remembered joy and pain, life and loss, and somehow, it began to remember him when he touched the walls. He saw things he had never lived, moments of another life. A hand in his, soft and warm, a child laughing. Silver hair in sunlight. Sometimes, the alien girl was there in those visions, not as a child, but as someone older, a woman, standing by his side. The scenes felt real, too real. They weren't just dreams. Ben didn't know how or why, but the house was showing him a future that could have been or might still be. The girl, whose name he still didn't know, worked quietly but with deep focus. Her hands glowed faintly each time she touched a stone. She would hum sometimes, a tune with no words. Like a song from before time, Ben began to hum it too. He had learned the rhythm of her work, slow and sacred. Every brick placed felt like honoring something lost, or someone waiting. One day, as they worked on a corner of the wall, the girl stopped and looked at Ben. "You remember now?" she said softly. Ben wiped sweat from his brow. "I don't know if I remember. Or if the house is giving me the memory," she nodded. "The house finds what your soul hides." He sat on a stone and stared at the half-finished roof. "So these memories, they come from me, too." She picked up a glowing tile and answered, "Some do. Some come from before you were born." Ben looked at her, confused. "Before I was born?" She said nothing, but placed the tile in the wall, and it shimmered like water that night. Ben couldn't sleep again. The memories were too strong. He saw the alien girl as a woman, standing in a garden of stars. He was with her, older but happy. They were not on Tressa, but somewhere else. A place filled with light and warmth. Then it turned dark, a fire in the sky, people running, voices screaming. He woke up gasping, as if he had lived through it. The next morning, he brought tools with him. Hammers, brushes, and even paint. The girl looked at them with curiosity. "We don't use these," she said. Ben chuckled. Old habits die hard, still. He set them down and joined her, brick by brick. This time, he asked her, "What happens when the house is finished?" She paused. "Then the doors will open." Ben frowned. "Doors? To what?" She looked at him, her eyes serious, "To memory. And to those who are waiting." They worked in silence again. But the silence was full of meaning. Ben noticed that other things had started to change. The wind felt warmer near the house. Birds no longer flew over it, they circled it, as if guarding something. Sometimes, the walls whispered. Not in words, but in feelings. Ben began to sense emotions that were not his sorrow. Hope, fear, love. It was like the house was alive, breathing through every piece they added. One afternoon, as the suns dropped low, Ben found a hidden space inside one wall. He reached in and pulled out a stone he hadn't placed. It was shaped like a heart, glowing red and gold when he touched it. A powerful vision hit him. He was holding a baby, its skin soft lavender, its eyes golden. The alien girl stood beside him. Smiling, tears in her eyes, it was their child. He dropped the stone, his hands shaking. The girl picked it up gently. "This memory is strong," she said. Ben looked at her, stunned, but it never happened. She looked at the house. Not yet. Ben's heart beat fast. "What are you building? Really?" he asked, voice shaking. She answered, "A place where memory and future meet." Ben looked around at the glowing walls. It no longer felt like a house. It felt like a living soul, one that remembered all, and offered something more. A chance to be whole again. That night, he stayed longer than usual. The alien girl sat beside him, looking at the stars. "You don't ask my name," she said. Ben smiled softly. "You'll tell me when you're ready," she nodded. And after a long pause, whispered, "My name is Sira." He repeated it. Sira. The stars shimmered gently above them. And beneath those stars, brick by brick, memory by memory, they built something no war, no time, no death could erase. The house was almost finished now. Its walls stood strong, curved, and glowing. Each brick told a story. Each stone hummed with memory. Ben could feel the difference in the air around it. It was no longer just a building. It was becoming something alive, something powerful. Sira, no longer just the alien girl to Ben, had changed too. She spoke more now, her voice stronger, clearer. Her eyes held both age and sadness, but also hope. Ben had never felt so close to anyone since his wife passed. Not even close. And yet, even as the house neared completion, a new feeling crept into Ben's chest, a warning, cold and quiet. It began when they noticed a strange sound in the sky, a low hum, distant but growing louder. Sira stood very still, staring at the clouds. Ben followed her gaze and saw it to a black shape cutting through the sky. Fast, sharp, like a knife, a ship, but not one from Tressa. Not human, not friendly. Sira's face went pale, her hands tightening into fists. "They're here," she whispered. Ben stepped forward. "Who?" She didn't look at him. "The ones who erased my people." Ben felt a chill. "They found you." She nodded slowly. "They fear what I'm building." Ben clenched his jaw. "Then we finish it before they get here." They worked quickly, faster than ever before. The final walls went up, piece by piece. The house pulsed with energy, its light growing stronger with each brick. But the sky darkened again, not from clouds, but from shadow. The ship had landed just beyond the trees. Ben heard the crunch of footsteps, metal and armor. He stood beside Sarah, holding a stone in his hand like a weapon. "Though it wasn't one, I'm not leaving," he said. Sarah looked at him, her voice calm but steady. "If they destroy this, my people will never return." 3 figures stepped out from the trees, tall in dark armor with glowing red masks. They spoke in a cold language, sharp like broken glass. Sarah stepped forward and answered in the same tongue. Ben didn't understand the words, but he understood the tension. They weren't here to talk. They were here to end something. One of the masked aliens raised a weapon. Ben stepped in front of Sarah, heart pounding. But before anything could happen, the house lit up like a sun. A wave of light burst from it, pushing the soldiers back. The ground shook, the wind howled, and the walls of the house began to sing. Not music, but memory. Voices from long ago filled the air. Children laughing, elders chanting, stories told in lost languages. The bricks glowed brighter than ever before. The soldiers stumbled, holding their heads. As if the sound hurt them, Sira raised her hand and spoke firmly, her voice echoing through the valley. "You try to erase us," she said. "But we remember." The soldiers turned and ran, disappearing into the forest without firing a single shot. The ship lifted off moments later, vanishing into the sky. The danger had passed for now. Ben dropped to his knees, overwhelmed by the light and the sounds. Sira touched his shoulder, and the noise faded. The house returned to silence, but it was not empty inside it. Something had awakened. "Is it finished?" Ben asked quietly. Sira looked at the glowing doorway, her face full of emotion. "Almost," she said. "One more step remains." Ben stood up slowly. "What step?" She turned to him, eyes shining with soft gold. "You must enter." Ben looked at the doorway, now pulsing like a heartbeat. He took a breath and stepped forward. As he crossed the entrance, the world changed. He was no longer on the hill. He stood inside the house. But it was no longer half-built. It was whole, full of light, full of life. Pictures moved across the walls, memories, not just of Sira's people, but of him, his wife, his daughter, the life he had lost, and something more, a future, him and Sira. Together, laughing, building, holding hands under a sky filled with stars. A child running through the hallway, her silver hair glowing in the sun. Ben felt tears on his face, but he wasn't sad. He turned and saw Sira standing in the doorway. "This is the home you dreamed of," she said. Ben nodded. "And the one you remembered." She stepped inside and stood beside him. Together, they looked around at what they had built. Brick by brick, memory by memory. Outside, the house now stood tall and proud. Its light reached into the sky. A beacon, a call, somewhere far away. Others were waking up, others who remembered. The fire in the sky had come, but it had not burned them. It had only made them stronger, and the story was not over yet. The house stood glowing under the twin suns. No longer just strange bricks and stones, it was alive now, pulsing with memory, whispering with voices that had waited a long time to be heard. Ben stood at its center, feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. The pain of his past still lived inside him, but here, inside this memory house, it felt softer, quieter, like a scar instead of a wound. Sira moved through the house slowly, her hands brushing over the walls. Wherever she touched, light followed, shapes formed on the surface, not decorations, but scenes, memories frozen in motion like windows into other times. Ben watched as one scene showed a group of alien children playing in a garden of bluegrass. Another showed a council of elders speaking under a tree with silver leaves. Each wall had a different story, a different soul, and each one felt familiar. Even though Ben had never lived them. "How do I know these things?" he asked softly. Sira stopped and looked at him. "Because the house is remembering for you." Ben frowned. "But these are your people's memories." She nodded. "Yes, and now?" "Yours too." She walked to a large archway that hadn't been there before. The bricks above it glowed like starlight. "It's time to open the final room," she said. Ben stepped beside her. "What's inside?" Sira's voice lowered. "Truth, together." They stepped through the archway. Inside was a round chamber, quiet and dim. At the center was a pedestal, and on it, a single stone. It was unlike the others, not smooth or glowing, but rough, dark, and cracked. Ben felt cold air around it. "This is the first memory," Sira said. "The one they tried to erase completely." Ben reached out and touched the stone. At once, the room disappeared. He stood on a battlefield, skies burning red, ships crashing, buildings in ruin. He saw Cyrildor leading a group of her people, helping them escape. Then he saw the masked enemies, burning homes, destroying statues. wiping away every trace of Sira's people. They didn't just want to win, they wanted to erase. He saw a young Sarah carrying a single stone and walking alone through fire. The same stone he now held, and then he saw something else. Himself, but not as Ben from Earth. He was there in the past, fighting beside Sarah, laughing with her before the war, holding her hand under alien stars. He was one of them once the vision ended. And Ben fell to his knees, breathing hard. Sira knelt beside him. "I don't understand," he said. Shaking, "You were one of us," she said. "Long ago, before you were reborn as human," Ben stared at her. "Is that even possible?" She nodded. The soul remembers, even when the body forgets. Ben stood slowly, everything inside him shifting. He thought of all the strange dreams, the visions, the way the stones had made him feel. It all made sense now. He wasn't just helping her rebuild her home. He was rebuilding his too, outside the chamber. The house began to change again. The walls turned transparent, like clear water. People could now see the memories from outside real stories. Living proof, other settlers started coming. Drawn by the glow, they stood in silence, watching the past unfold through the walls. Many cried, some bowed their heads, and others whispered names they thought were lost. Then the air shifted again. A second ship appeared in the sky. But this one was not like the dark ship from before. This one was white, soft in shape, with golden lights. Sira looked up, her eyes wide. "They heard us," she whispered. Ben asked, "Who?" She smiled through tears. "The ones who survived." The ship landed in the field beyond the trees, and the doors opened. Figures stepped out tall, gentle-looking. Their skin marked with glowing patterns like Sira's. One of them gasped when he saw her, Sira. He called, voice breaking. She ran to him. And they embraced like two halves of a lost soul. Ben watched, heart full. He had helped bring back a people who were never supposed to return. Sira turned to Ben and held out her hand. He walked to her. And for the first time, he felt whole. The house had remembered everything, and in doing so, had given everything back, past, present, and future were no longer separate. They were one. As the stars rose above them and the house glowed in the darkness, Ben knew this was not the end. It was a beginning. And the final memory had yet to be written. The sun was setting over Tressa, painting the sky in soft orange and pale violet. The house on the hill stood complete now, its smooth, glowing walls catching the last light. No longer quiet, no longer hidden. It had become a place of life, memory, and return. Ben stood at the edge of the field, watching the newcomers gather. Dozens of Sira's people had arrived from the white ship, each one stepping carefully onto the soil. Some cried as they touched the earth, some knelt to kiss the glowing stones. They had waited generations for this moment. And now, they were home. Sira moved among them, greeting each one with a gentle smile and quiet words. Ben watched her from a distance, feeling pride grow in his chest. She had done what no one thought possible, rebuilt a lost civilization from memory, but she hadn't done it alone. He had helped, and now he was part of it too. One of the elders approached Ben, tall and graceful, his skin marked with glowing patterns of gold. "You are the one who helped her," the elder said in a warm voice. Ben nodded, a little shy. "I just carried bricks." The elder placed a hand on his shoulder. "You carried more than bricks, human. You carried memory." Later that night, fires were lit around the hill, not for heat, but for celebration. The house glowed brighter than ever, alive with stories on its walls, visions, dance scenes of love, laughter, birth, and reunion. The people of Tressa, both alien and human, gathered to witness. Children pointed at the glowing images, asking questions. Adults stood quietly, listening to the whispers in the stone. Even those who had once doubted now believed. Ben sat beside Sierra near the house's front entrance. They said little, but their silence was full of meaning. She looked up at the stars and whispered, "It's strange." Ben turned to her. "What is?" "I thought I was alone," she said. "But I wasn't." Ben smiled. "None of us are." "Not really." She leaned her head gently on his shoulder. And he didn't move. He felt something soft bloom in his chest. Not a memory this time, but something real. Hope, after all the pain, after all the waiting. Something new was beginning. Then the house hummed again. A new sound, deeper and stronger. The doorway glowed once more. And this time, something changed. A figure stepped out, not a person, but a shimmering shape, like light given form. It looked at Ben and Sierra, then spoke without words. "The house is full," the voice said. "Now it must give." Ben stood slowly. "Give what?" The light moved closer, touching his chest. "The memory becomes future," it said. Suddenly, Ben saw visions not of the past, but of what was to come. He saw a village, families laughing. New homes being built around the memory house. He saw children, some human, some alien. Some mixed running through glowing fields. He saw himself and Sierra, older, standing together beneath a tree that hadn't grown yet. It was peaceful, warm, full of life. The light faded, and the figure vanished into the night. Ben looked at Sierra, whose eyes were wet with quiet tears. "Did you see it too?" he asked. She nodded. "It's not just a home of the past now." Ben took her hand. "It's a home for all of us." The next morning, they planted a tree beside the house, a new one, from a seed carried in one of the memory stones. Sierra said it was a sacred tree from her people's first planet. They called it Ziria, which meant the tree that waits. Ben smiled at the name. Seems fitting. Together, they placed the seed in the ground and watered it with their hands. And as the suns rose, the soil shimmered, and the first green sprout pushed through. People from nearby towns came in the days that followed. Some came to help. Others came just to stand quietly and feel what had been lost and what had been found again. News of the house spread across Tressa and even back to Earth. A place once forgotten had become a place of beginning. Ben didn't think of himself as a hero. He was still just a widower, a man who missed his family, but now he had found something new. Not a replacement, but a new chapter. A family not of blood, but of choice. A home not of wood or brick. A memory, hope, and love on the seventh night. The house played one last vision on its walls. It showed Sarah as a young girl, placing her first brick. And it showed Ben standing beside her. Years before they had met, the house remembered everything. Because love, even lost or hidden, always finds its way back. And now, finally, they were home at last.